this evening when I heard music echo through the night. So I started running so I wouldn't be too late. In the neon light, with the music on reveal through the night.
Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how to regain your mindset after a trauma. And trauma is one of those things that it could be a loss in the family, it could be a loss of a job. Trauma can be different for everyone. Now, just because you have a trauma that might not be significant to another person doesn't mean your trauma is any less significant. Today we're going to be looking at our TUS blog, our Tune-Up Series blog, and diving into that. If you're new to the podcast, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share this video and your audio. What led me to write this blog this week is that many people are going through rough times in their life. Maybe it's a loss, maybe it's financial, but a lot of people are stressed, overburdened, underpaid, underappreciated, and they don't necessarily know what to do next. They'll do anything they can to provide for their family, to protect their family, and then to have a life that they want. Now, there's going to be some people who just allow circumstance to rule their life, but if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not that type of person. You're looking for a way out maybe, and you're starting here. That's a good starting point. But we do have to take some time and realize, are we in the correct mindset to propel ourselves to the next level? Maybe, maybe not, right? Mindset is just one of those things that is going to evolve constantly. And if you're not in the right place right now, we can make the changes that are necessary for you to get into that mindset. The problem is it going to be a temporary type of band-aid fix, or is it going to be something substantial where we go down, we dig down deep to the root problem, and then we address it from there? Most people prefer the band-aid route because it's the quickest and easiest route. But when you're diving deep into a trauma, it can take months, if not years, to get over it and to heal from it. And then to learn the lesson. Because in the time, in that moment of that trauma, there's nothing more than you want. It's to not feel that. It's to not feel that negativity. It's not to have gone through that hardship. But that's life. Life will have ups, it will have downs. And if you're listening to this and you're having quite some downs, stay tuned to the end and maybe we can get you into a better mindset so you can start to heal. So let's get into that blog right now. All right, everyone. If you're new to the podcast, you can head over to revenconcepts.com and you can check out the most recent blog. The way you would do that, it's on the homepage. Just head over to resources, go down to blogs, and then we have our blog right there. Our most recent blog that we're going to be talking about today is going to be a tune-up series. Now, for any of my new listeners, we have a tune-up series, and that's going to be for past clients or current clients too, because there's going to be a lot of ways of thinking in the tune-up series that you might have questions about that are not answered. And it's because this is for clients who have already gone through coaching with me. And it doesn't matter if you get 1 month of coaching or 3 months of coaching or 6 months of coaching. Typically, I can have you all fixed up by 3 months. But if you decide to have more coaching, or if we decide to dive into different areas of coaching, then that's where the coaching process can take a little bit longer. But we do tackle a problem within typically 3 months. So here we have how to regain mindset after trauma. We don't want trauma in our life. We don't want to have difficulty. We want easy. Now, just because we want easy, just because we don't want trauma, doesn't mean we're going to get that. So we have to take some time to realize that the things that happen to us might not be good, but we do have to understand what's going on. Here I have 4 simple steps that we're going to dive into today that are going to help us get to the conclusion and then take action. So step 1 is going to be understanding what happened. Step 2 is going to be understanding the why. Step 3 is going to be come to a conclusion. And then step 4 is going to make the change. For anyone who is listening or watching, of course, you can go to the blog link while I am doing this episode and you can just follow along, because what the blog does is going to give you a good type of structure. It's going to be in rudimental order of how we learn. So if you are the type of person who likes to maybe get the results first or know the end and work backwards, begin with the end in mind type of thinking, you can do that with the blog, because you can go down to the end, look at the conclusion, or look at the action steps. It's not going to make much sense, but you can work backwards if that is your cup of tea. But if you're a person who needs things in order, and typically that's how the brain typically works, if it can be in order, if it can be simplified, then that is what we're going to try to do. The brain just likes that a little bit more than saying, okay, let me start at the end and work my way back. Just depends on your brain. It just depends maybe on your upbringing, your environment, whatever. All of those things play a factor. But let's dive into trauma. Trauma, again, is just one of those things that are going to be a feeling of hurt, stuck, you're lost. Maybe even getting into the depression state. We are trying to get over this depression, trying to get over this moment, and we don't necessarily know how, especially if it's your first time. Now, if you're going through trauma for the first time, you don't have the mindset most likely to get out of it. Yeah, you just probably don't. No matter how much coaching you received or how many programs of coaches you purchased, you have a new obstacle that you have to address. Mindset is about addressing those obstacles. I talked about this story in the past. It's probably like on a blog day too, where there was a man. He was a successful man. And one day he gets into a car accident. And now he's no longer able to drive, no longer able to walk, and coincidentally no longer able to be happy, because his life as he knew it was gone. Now, before the accident, he was a very mindful person, loving, generous, kind, everything that a happy person, a mindful person would have. He had it. He was extremely optimistic, generous, you name it, he was that person. People loved to be around him, and he loved to be around people. But after the accident, what had happened? The doctor had came in the room, and the doctor said that he would never be able to walk again. Now, at this point, this man is an extremely mindful man, strong mindset. He has done the things that require a strong mindset. But guess what? He succumbed to that negativity, to those thoughts that weren't going to be helpful. I'm not going to be able to walk again. My life is over. So his life was over as he knew it. And what he had to do at that point was come to a conclusion. Was he going to remain in this mindset, or was he going to change? Now, as I said in the beginning of the story, he was a very mindful person, very happy person, optimistic type of person. Well, one day his dad came to see him in the hospital, and this man was already checked out. He had given up on life, on recovery. And this is a different son than the father had raised and the father had known. So his father told him, this is not my son. You are not my son. And it wasn't to say that he disowns him because he got into a car accident. He's acting nothing like the man prior to the accident. The father goes on to explain to the son, before the accident, you were extremely mindful. If you had an obstacle or a challenge, you overcame it. No matter how long, no matter how difficult, you overcame it. And then he just went on to tell him how he used to be and now he is now. When the father left that evening, the young man had an opportunity to reflect. And so he did reflect on who he was and who he is now, and who he can become, who he will become. What that doctor did was place a limiting belief onto that young man, his patient. You'll never be able to walk again. We should believe him, huh? He's a doctor, right? We should trust him, right? He had all these years of schooling. In order to become a doctor, it's not easy. So he is someone we should take expert advice from. But guess what? That advice is not helpful. It didn't enact our mindset to change or to rise. It caused us to fear and not to act. How is inaction a good thing when we had a serious trauma in our life? It's not. So that evening when the father went home and the son was by himself in his mindset, he promised himself that he wouldn't succumb to this trauma, to this accident, to this life change. And so he decided to make a change. and he decided that he's going to walk again, regardless of what the doctor says, regardless of what the world believes, he's going to be able to walk. Long story short, he was. It's a mindset thing when it comes to healing, recovery, trauma. But in that moment of that trauma, regardless of what it is, nothing feels better. You might have a temporary band-aid like a substance abuse, but that is only a band-aid that should be avoided. Dealing with it in that moment, raw, that's going to make you stronger. Even if you did dabble with some alcohol or some type of narcotic to feel better, to get a temporary type of relief, if you were able to overcome that, that is even a more different story. Now you overcame a bad habit and a trauma. When we can typically avoid the bad habit, some people might need that. It just depends. How far is rock bottom to you? How far do you need to fall before you say, this is enough, let me pull the parachute? Some people just give up on life, on living, once something bad happens. And to be honest, I think they do it subconsciously. They don't even realize that they're doing it to themselves until they realize that they're in a bad place and they need a repair. So the steps in this tune-up series is going to be helping you get to a better mindset when it comes to dealing with trauma. Step 1 is going to be understanding what happened. Now, in order to understand what happened, we need to have an example. So we're going to say that we lost a job. And everything that we're talking about today is just going to be talking about a job loss. We can have a death in the family. We can have a life circumstance change like that man in the hospital who lost the ability to walk. It could be anything, but we're just going to focus today on career. If you have a different type of circumstance, of course, and that's when you're probably going to want to get coaching and we can work on your circumstance. But for our example today, we're going to be using career. So understanding what happened. So let's say in a career, we are maybe the top brass. We're pretty high up in the company, but then we get cut. Maybe the company is folding and they're going under, so they're not going to be able to retain your services anymore. So you have to move on. Now, you might have moved states. You might have had family and been relying on that money to pay your mortgage. So you maybe have a lifestyle that might be pretty lavish at this moment because the income you were receiving was a lavish type of income. But now you don't necessarily have that. So we have to make some changes, right? So understanding what happened, we lost our job. Why did we lose our job? That's step 2, understanding the why. Now, if the why is going to be pertaining to us, then we could do something. If it's an outside source, we need to see, what do we do after that? So if we have that why being us, understanding the why, meaning we got fired because we were late to work. That's our why. Why were we late to work, right? Are we making excuses, right? What were we doing? Do we have bad morning habits? Did something else happen in our life that's now compounding into our career? It could be a mess when it comes to trauma and to challenge and to difficulty. Now, if you were on the spectrum of you didn't get fired because you were late, and now it's because of something you didn't have control over, what can you say? You can easily say, well, it wasn't meant to be, and now I have to find a new job, and it's so difficult to find a new job that pays the same, and everyone's not hiring right now. We can have many, many excuses. Or what we can do is when we look at that why, understanding that why for the company going under, learning from it. And then that goes into our steps 3 and 4, sort of. The company went under because they went bankrupt. All right, that's the why. But now, how do we think about it? That's going to be up to us. So we're going to start to come to a conclusion about it. That's step 3. So now we're in the conclusion phase. We're trying to figure out what to do. What course of action are we going to take? Now, some people are going to be able to take proper action. Some people are not going to be taking proper action. Some people are going to have more action. Some people are going to have less action. Some people are going to wallow in self-doubt and despair. And some people are going to thrive in this type of environment where uncertainty is so extreme. It just depends on your mindset, depends on who you are. How you view the situation is going to be your new situation. If you view it as positive, then your new situation has a strong possibility of being positive. But if you see the situation as negative, there's a possibility that our next situation is going to be negative too. How many negatives do we need to get to a positive? We need to figure that out. Now, the last part is going to be making the change. So if we are in a trauma, still talking about work and career, that is going to be an opportunity for us. So we came to conclusion, we figure out what we liked, what we don't like, and then now we're going to make the change. We might be filling out a lot of applications. We might be going in for interviews, trying to find the right fit. Now, I will say that you might not find a job that pays exactly the same. Probably not in the beginning. Yes, you can be fortunate and find a job that will, but if you don't, are you upset about it? Because what we want to do initially when it comes to a trauma or hardship is stop the bleeding. This is true in every realm of mindset. If you're having financial woes, how do we stop the bleeding? We have to stop the problem. We have to find a solution, and then we can take action. So a proper course of action for the person who is maybe looking for a job, to do more applications, to work on his resume, to maybe try new things that he maybe wanted to try before, but he was stuck in this career, because your career is not necessarily you. Yeah, you can work at a fast food place and make over $100,000. But just because you make six figures, it doesn't mean that you're fulfilled. People have lost sight in what success is. But today we're working on trauma. And many people will avoid trauma rather than deal with trauma, because if they can avoid it, that's easier. And the brain likes easy. So that's why many people stay in trauma for so long, because it requires a huge amount of effort to get out. Now, I will say, you can get out by yourself. You don't need a therapist. You don't need a coach. But when you do have that support system, whether it be a coach or a therapist, you're going to get out a lot quicker. 100%. This is not one of those things where it's going to be, well, maybe you'll get out quicker, or maybe you won't get out quicker. The more positive things that you get into your head from a coach or a therapist, and the more advice you get from them and more help and assistance, you're going to get better quicker. That's just the way it is. Think of it if you have a broken bone. Yeah, if you don't go to the doctor, your bone will eventually heal. Maybe wrong, but if you went to a doctor, you got a cast, the x-rays, did all the work that you had to do from a specialist, you're going to be in better shape, right? That is what we're looking at. We're looking at how to get in better shape after we had some type of trauma or hardship in our life. And this tune-up series, How to Regain Mindset After Trauma, is going to be exactly that. Now, I do go into detail into these areas. Is very brief again, because this is going to be for clients who have already worked with me, so they know much of the terminology and they know what mindset is, and they probably have already graduated to having a very strong mindset. Most people are going to have maybe like a medium type of mindset where they know they can, but they don't know how. Or if they reach some opposition, they retract their mindset basically, and they say, well, this is not possible, right? So those limiting beliefs that we give ourselves are going to be forever prominent. But we do have to make the change, and we do have to come to conclusion that our life can be better, and that any hardship or any negativity that comes our way can be addressed in a proper manner where our mindset is going to reign supreme. So it just depends on you. How deep are you? Much of this is going to depend on you. If you're able to get to a stronger mindset after a trauma, and how long it's going to take. Because if you say, I want to get this trauma out of my life as quick as possible, then you're probably going to be looking at a coach, getting a therapist, something like that, and then working on it. Now, there's going to be some people in this state of trauma and negativity where they're going to say nothing is going to help. No matter what I do, nothing helps. That's like severe depression. And yes, you can take meds and you can go on antidepressants. That is going to be a Band-Aid type of thing. And I do understand, I am very well aware that there are going to be chemical imbalances in certain individuals. So having those type of medicines helping balance you out can be a good thing. Now, for me, I'm a firm believer in we can do it ourselves. Yes, having some type of medicine help us maybe might be better, but at the same time, I prefer to do it the natural, holistic way. I believe our body has evolved over the years and has become strong enough to handle any type of opposition. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here as a species. So that means we're equipped with everything we need to have in order to survive and in order to flourish. So if you're going outside of your body, you're really necessarily saying, I don't have everything within me to handle this. It's a subconscious thought. It is. Like I said, there are going to be people with chemical imbalances, but I know people who have those imbalances that don't use medicines and they're able to get over it. I will tell you, it's a lot more difficult for them because they're literally fighting their natural instinct or their natural habits or tendency. That is difficult, to fight yourself every single day. But in closing, no matter what trauma you're going through in your life, whether it be a loss of a loved one, career, relationship, family, a pet, it doesn't necessarily matter the trauma. It is a hardship on the brain. And it's going to put us in a realm of we don't know what to do. We feel lost. We feel stuck. We feel victimized. But mindset is going to be a higher level of thinking. How can we get to a higher level of thinking and then move on from there? Some people can do it. Some people can't. But everyone has the ability to do it as long as they're aware of what they're able to accomplish. Don't get into the state of mind saying it can't be done, it won't be done. Get into the state of mind that it can be done, it will be done. Because you have a power within you to do anything you want in the world. If you put your mind to it, it can be accomplished. And just because I can't accomplish it doesn't mean you can't accomplish it. Or just because you saw someone fail doesn't mean you're going to fail. Now, we can look at science. We can listen to scientists. We can listen to all these gurus in the world. And they might say something's not possible. It might be impossible for them, but for you, that's your determination. There's so many stories of people being told that it can't be done. And sure enough, it was done. So when you're in this type of trauma, this type of hardship, there is a way to heal. There is a way out. There is a way to recover and to regain a strong positive mindset. You have to see that in order to achieve that. And if you can start to walk in that direction, your whole life is going to change, one moment, one step at a time. And of course, if you need help on that change, head over to ReardenConcepts.com and we can get you the coaching that you need to get you to where you need to be. I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.